MP3 player. I bet if iPod's price change, that's going to influence the price of the other MP3 players. It will. And airline industry, we have 10 airlines approximately. If you Google from one route to another, you probably will get 10 carriers, I'd say. If one airline company launch a market strategy said from DC to Chicago, I'm only going to charge $100, you change the price. I bet that's going to affect how other airline company going to charge that route too. So when you have a limited number of firms, what you're seeing is one firm's action has dramatic impact on other firms' action. They may follow suit, they may do some similar market strategy. So when you see these kind of things, and where then that belong to the market we're going to talk about later, it's called oligopoly. So oligopoly is a market where you only have a few firms, and they're really interconnected, which means that one firm's action has a great influence on other firms' profit or action. So I would say MP3 market is more close to the oligopoly market structure, which we're going to talk about later. So it's really interesting to analyze how firms behave differently in different market structures. It's like a playing game in oligopoly. When you play chess, you guys know how to play chess? Okay. No? It's a fun game.
Checkers.
When you play chess, before you make the move, you have to think about, after I make this move, how my rival is going to respond, right? So you're going to take that into consideration before you make the move. And in oligopoly market structure, it's the same. In the airline industry market, in the MP3 player market, in the soft drink market, there's only a few, 2 or 3 big brands that compete with each other. In all this market, when each firm decide on a price or want to change the price, they're going to think about, okay, if I do that, how are the firms going to respond to that? They're going to take that action, take that response into consideration before they make any move. Okay, so for this kind of behavior, and usually we see it in the oligopoly market. But in a perfect competitive market, you have tons of providers provide goods, and which is the same good, then no firm's action has any impact on other firms. Okay. So that's what's unique about this market, and it's the firm's action has no impact on other firms' profit or action. Okay. Very few market fall into this category. And Joshua mentioned agricultural goods will be one of them. Like give you another example, potato. There's some difference, Actually, I like red skin potato better than yellow skin. But overall, if you look at potato, it's pretty much the same. Okay. So and also how many providers you have farmers all over the country produce those products, potatoes, right? So you have really millions of providers, and also those providers, those farmers, they do not determine the price of this potato. So whether one farmer wants to sell now, it really have no impact on the price of the potato or on whether how other farmers go to do. So very few market fall into this category. Very few, because this is an extreme market. We assume that goes exactly identical. You have many providers. But why do we want to analyze this? Any idea why we want to analyze this market? Even though there's very few market fall into that category, but why we still want to do it? Critical thinking question. Well, the reason is, in this idealistic market, it's going to provide highest efficiency. And we want to see, if we have a market like that, how high the efficiency we can reach. What is the amount of welfare can be generated by having a market like that. And once we understand this idealistic market, then we can compare this market with other real estate market. See how the efficiency has been changed, how the welfare is different. Are you guys following me here? Okay. If there's anything that you feel you understand, you will raise your hand. Okay. All right, so this is the market we're talking about. So we spend 10 minutes on this one. In this market, the supply and the demand model, and so far we talked about just, when we draw this, okay, last class. Okay. This represents one particular market, but in the real world, you have billions, trillions of different markets, clothes market, the makeup market, the book market. You have trillions, the number of different markets. But when we just analyze one particular market. Okay, and later on we're going to analyze what is the equilibrium in this one particular market. And then the question is, okay, you understand one market, but market does not move along. All this market is, you can think about like a spider web. They all interconnected. When one market changes, when the demand in one market change, it's going to affect something in the other market. Then the other market is going to start moving. When the other market start moving, it's going to affect all other markets. You see what I'm saying here? So this chapter here, we're not going to talk about the equilibrium for the whole world. Okay, we're only going to talk about equilibrium in one particular market. When do we talk about that? The equilibrium for all markets, and that's, I think, it's chapter 5 or 6, and that's what we call the general equilibrium. But right now, we just focus on one market to see what kind of thing can affect the change in one market. Okay. And also, we're going to divide all this market into several categories. Okay. We have what we call goods market, and we have service market. Like the things that talk about clothes, textbook, that belongs to the goods market, right? Haircut, and the oil change for your car, that's considered service market. Okay? So basically we put all the market into these two categories. Goods market and service market. Okay. So this is the one way to divide category. And another way of category market is what we call output market and input market. Output market, input market. Okay. The clothes is something you consume. It's an output. Okay. A market for clothes is considered as an output. But what are the things that are the input for making clothes? What are things that is used to make clothes? What are the input to make clothes? You guys know the word input, right? Output, input. You have to have the cotton, right? That is input. Okay, what else?
Thread.
Can I?
Thread. Like sewing thread.
Thread.
Yeah,
What's
material.
okay? Thread. And thread is made of cotton. The same thing. Cotton. Okay. And what else? What are the other input to make clothes?
Person to make it.
Labor.
Yeah.
Labor is input, right? So when we talk about the labor market, that will belong to the input market, labor market. There's the labor demand, there's labor supply, right? Okay, what else? but add input in order to make it close.
Time. Like, how long it take?
The input is the things you need to make it close.
You need like a sewing machine.
The machines, equipment, right? Equipment. So equipment, if you think about equipment, it's considered as the input to make clothes. So the equipment goes into here. But for the manufacture for the equipment, then the equipment is also output. So the equipment also belongs to here. So for a lot of goods, it depends on how you see it, They could be either in the output market or in the input market. But generally, that's how we, divide up the whole market. So later on, what we're going to talk about is how this market interact with each other, how eventually reach the equilibrium. All right, so this is what I want to say before we move on to supply. Now we're going to move on to the supply side. So any question here? I really love questions, I love you challenge me. If you challenge me, that means you're thinking. Not challenge me in a bad way, okay? Challenge me intellectually. Think about some critical question. Whenever the student always saying, okay, the instructor or professor teaching me something, I suppose to totally believe it. No, you should not. You should think about yourself, whether it is right or wrong. And if you cannot understand whether it's right, then you should question it. That's how you learn stuff. Do not take anything, just accept it completely. Never do it. I was never like that when I was a student. When I learn something, I always try to fully understand why. If I can, then I will question it. But by questioning, I learn more. And I understood completely. So question it. Do not just take what I said and say, oh, that's the way it is. Think about it. That's the way to learn. Okay? As long as you do it politely, I'll be very happy to hear that. I will not be offended. Okay, so we're going to move to the supply. So last class we talked about the demand, okay? I'm going to review a little what we learned about demand. We see the demand has a negative slope, and then I mentioned the law of demand. What is law of demand? What is law of demand?
Relationship between price and quantity.
The negative relationship between the price and quantity demanded, right? Yes, there's law of demand, price goes up, quantity demand goes down. And I also mentioned about how do we determine the location of the demand? The demand curve is right here, not somewhere else. What are the things that determine the location of the demand? Income? Second one?
Price of related goods.
The price of related good. What are the related goods I introduced?
Substitute and complement.
Substitutes and complements. Okay, good. And what else?
Expectations.
Expectations. And what else?
Preferences.
Needs and preference. Okay, so all those factors determine the location of this, right? If any one of this change, location of this will change. That's what we talk about. So, if I ask you, how the quantity demanded? So what are the things that the quantity demanded actually depends on? Quantity demanded. Okay, what is quantity demanded? If I say, okay, we pick a point. This point here, price is $5. This is 20 units. And this is one quantity demanded, right? It is the quantity demanded at the price equal to 5. So when I say quantity demanded, what I mean is one particular point, not the whole demand line occur. Okay. So you know the quantity demanded depends on the price for sure, right? And also it's going to depend on how this demand curve is located. So what are the factor? Factor quantity demanded and price. You guys follow me here? And the price, when the price change, quantity demanded will change. But when all those factors change, the whole demand curve will change. Alright, so now let's talk about supply. What's the law of supply? And what does the supply curve describe? The relationship or what? The relationship of? I already put the labels there. Price and quantity, supply. Okay. The price and how many units want to be sold, want to be produced by the producers. Okay. Does it have positive and negative relationship? Positive relationship, which means if the price is higher, then company saying, oh, it can probably make a good profit, I'm going to make more, right? Very straightforward. So now we're going to talk about what? We're going to talk what? Now we know this. We're going to talk about what? The factors that affect the supply curve to shift, right? What are the factors? We're talking about closed market. Okay, cotton is one of, you can say.
Like, how many people you got working?
I can't hear you.
How many people you have working to make clothes?
So then you're talking about the labor,
Yeah.
right? Good. So labor is input, right? Labor is input. If, let's say, the wage of the labor increases, then is it good news or bad news for the farm? Bad news, because they have to pay more now. Now it costs more for them to produce. So now if they cost more for them to produce, they're going to produce more or produce less? They're going to produce less, so the supply is going to go down. When the supply goes down, how is the supply going to shift? Shift to the left or shift to the right? Always go to the left. If it's less, it's always left. If more, it's always right. Okay? So the very first important factor is input price. If the input price goes up, that means it's more costly to produce, and the supply is going to go to the left and go to shift down. What about other factors you think can affect the supply? So what do you think about technology? We have better technology. How that's going to affect the supply?
The time we can get it done in.
You go, now we have better technology. So with better technology, you're going to make more because you probably going to use less resources to produce the same amount. That's right, because you have better technology. So when we have better technology, supply is going to shift to the right. Technology is going to. Okay, other factors. Let me give you an example here. We have a lot of farmers. You know, they have. Actually, I lived here. I had a landlord. They have a big piece of land next to my house, and when I lived there, and sometimes they will use that to grow soybeans, and sometimes will use to grow corns or something. Are they the same season? That's I don't know, but they will change. Okay, so they say this year and the soybeans market price goes up. So what do you think the farmer will do? Soybeans price goes up compared to the corns. Say, if that's the options, farmers have. Should the farmers grow soybeans or corns? Soybeans, because now they can sell, make more money, right? Okay. So now, so this factor, what do we call it? We call the price of related good too. Price of related goods. So in this example here, corns and soybeans, they're related, right? I mean related to the farmer, and because farmer have to decide what to grow on this piece of land. And if one product's price goes up, it's more likely for them to grow this product because they can make more money, right? Price of related goods. So that's also factor supply. Okay, so the supply of the soybeans by this farmer is going to go up because of that. Okay, so that is the basic factors that affect supply. Of course, there's many other things like weather, right? If the hurricane hit Florida, the orange production goes down, then supply is going to shift to the left, right? Okay, and the expectation, and also the population. And in China, we have, since the open market economy can tell you see goods all over the place, and the abundance of the material is just it's amazing. We never seen it when I was a little kid. We did not have open market economy. We did not have a supermarket at all. So the rules were really, really limited. But now you go to China, supermarket is all over the place. Small ones, big ones, you see foods everywhere. But anyway, so part of the reason is because we have huge populations here. When you have a lot of population, then the producer is okay. So another factor could be a number of people. Okay, the population would be also another factor. Okay, so we're not listing all the factors here. Okay, so it does not mean those are the only factors, but we list the most important ones, most relevant ones. Okay, but you should know that for each supply and demand, they are determined by all those external factors. If any one of these external factors changes, this supply curve will shift. Okay, so whenever we draw a supply curve, we instantaneously made assumption. Assumption we made is all those factors are held constant, not changing. Because any one of the change, this will change. Okay. All right, so this is the supply side and this is demand side. And now let's talk about equilibrium point. Why do we call it equilibrium point? You guys know this word, understand this word here? Equilibrium. What's the meaning of equilibrium? Balance, a stable situation. Okay, that's what we mean by equilibrium, a balance and a stable. Okay, so the reason we call the market equilibrium is it is a situation where the market is clear and stable temporarily. So the reason we call it is equilibrium because the market is clear and stable temporarily at that point. And that's this point here. We call this value here is equilibrium price. We call this quantity here is equilibrium quantity. Why? Because at this equilibrium price, if you look at quantity demanded, it's exactly equal to quantity demanded is exactly equal to quantity supplied at the equilibrium point. Okay. So what this means here is everyone who wants to buy the product is able to find it in the market. And everyone who wants to sell the product is able to find a consumer to buy it from. That's what we call the market is clear. Everybody's happy. There's no shortage of goods, and there's no surplus of goods. Every good that has been provided is sold to someone. Everybody who wants it is able to find it from somewhere. Okay. So that's why we call the market's clear. Because market is clear, everybody's happy, then it's a stable situation. How about this? What happens at price equal to P1?
So this man shifted to the right.
Does demand shift?
So
Does
supply.
any did I mention any external factor change?
You just
So if there's no external factor changing, then demand and supply stay where they are. But the price right now is at P1. So at the P1, tell me where is quantity demanded? How many consumer want to buy?
more.
Look at the graph. How do we find that quantity demanded at this P1? Where is P1? It's right here. Where is demand? It's right here, right? What is quantity demanded at P1?
Where they made the same. Yeah.
Yeah. Right? This many consumer want to buy, right? At that price. And is it more or less than when the price is equal to P star? Less, right? Now the price has gone up and the less people want to buy. So quantity demanded has gone down from Q star to QD. Yes? But what about quantity supply? How many units have been provided by the firm? How many units has been provided by the firm? Yeah. Where is it?
Sure.
Huh?
I'm not sure.
Okay, pay attention. Okay. You do not know when you sit here, when you stand here, you can see everybody sees pressure on your face, and I know exactly whether you're following me or not. Okay. So where is quantity supply when price equal to P1?
For supply?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, come over here. Show us where is quantity supply. Price equal to P1. Where's the supply curve? Tell me where's supply. Where's supply curve? Stand on the side of everything. Where's the supply curve? Where? Show it. Just here? How about here? Is this supply?
yes.
So what is supply? Show me the whole thing. So that's the supply. Now where's the price?
P1.
P1. Okay, at that price, what is the quantity supply? Go ahead, Jordan.
Just to mark that on.
Thank you. Okay. This is quantity supply, right? You can do it, you just need to follow me, pay attention to me, okay? Several of you, your mind is somewhere else. You may think about eating or sleeping, whatever you're thinking. I can read your face, okay? But don't think about something somewhere else because I can read it. So this is a quantity supply. At that price, quantity supplied is higher or lower than at that price originally? Higher,
Alright.
higher, right? So you have this many producer or this many unit being provided to the market, but you only have this much demand. So what do we have this situation? Do we have shortage or surplus? Huh? Surplus. We have some extra good that could not be sold. We could not find the customer who want to buy it, right? Okay. So when the price is above the equilibrium price, what you have is this. Quantity supplied is greater than quantity demanded. This is not the situation where the market is clear. Market is not clear because there's some extra unit that stay there, could not be sold, but the suppliers really want to sell them. They don't want to have this goods stuck in their hand, right? They want to sell them. So what would they do if they want to sell them? Make it cheaper. So when you have extra goods, when you have surplus, those surplus will put a pressure on this price, and that pressure will push the price down. Every time the price is little bit lower, then this surplus, the gap is smaller. Then the pressure becomes smaller. But as long as there is still this gap, then the market will still experience the pressure from the surplus. Will keep pushing the price down. Eventually reach this point. When you reach this point, every unit is able to be sold to someone. So everyone's happy. Market is clear. That's why we call it stable situation. That's why this is a non-stable situation. Any question here? Okay, now I want to have a reverse situation. Ask you what happened. What if now the price is here? Price at P2. I want to ask somebody to come to the board, and show us where is the quantity demanded at this price, and where is the quantity demanded, where is the quantity supplied at that price, and what's happening in the market. Okay,
The quantity supplied is right here.
great. Mark here. Quantity supplied.
And quantity demanded is right here.
Okay. So what kind of situation we have here?
Shortage.
You have shortage. Great, thank you. So now what we have is QD is greater than QS. Some people who really want to buy these goods, but could not find it. Not find it. And what might happen if you are in a situation of shortage? What you might see
Price
in
increase.
the real world? You may see the black market, right? What people do in the black market, they charge a higher price. People go to the black market to buy the goods. They pay higher price. They really want to get into this football game, So somebody may sell it not that I wouldn't call it black market, but sell it individually, charge a higher price. Okay. So when you have shortage, then the pressure of the shortage will push the price up. But as long as the gap, you will still experience, the market will still experience the pressure. So where's the pressure come from? Come from no one, come from the market. Okay, that's why we call it, market is like a very sophisticated machine. They can operate on itself. Okay. So eventually, and when there's no difference, when they reach this point, and this point, everyone in the market is happy. We reach a temporarily stable situation. Why we call it a temporarily stable situation? Because each market is connected to millions, precedents of other market. Anything else in those market change is going to affect this. The demand or supply is going to start moving. Then you may experience this this shortage of supply again. Then the market will, start moving again to try to convert to this point. So, in the real world, what you see is constantly moving. Each market is constantly moving. I mean, here in the United States, because we have very developed economy and developed market, and this moving is much smaller and it takes much longer to see the move. But we see in China, I can tell you every moment the market is moving. Because every moment there's new market emerging. The new market emerging is going to influence some other market. It's constantly moving. But this sophisticated machine, this mechanism, always trying to push each market to this point, equilibrium point. So that's why we call it stable, because it's a point where the market is trying to converge to. Guys, doing okay here? Okay. You ready for some application of the concept? Ready to do some practice? Okay, see whether you really can utilize this. Is this the stuff hard? No hard? Moderate? Moderate? You have the book? Okay, turn to page 74. If you don't have the book, do you guys have the book? You don't have the book? Or you just did not bring it?
I have an e-text.
You have
Yeah.
e-text? Okay. Do you read e-text?
Yeah.
Printed copies. Print copy, bring to the class. Okay, print each chapter, so bring to class. So because I know if you don't print a copy, you won't read it. Okay? So what about you? And you can get it? 1 week. 1 week, I want to see the book on your desk. Okay? If you don't have book, how do I expect you to learn stuff? Everybody else. How about you? Do you have the book? You don't have the weight, but you bought it, right? Okay. How about you guys? You too?
Same thing.
Yeah.
What's the same thing?
Same thing. Didn't bring it.
What didn't bring? You
What he said.
Huh?
Same thing.
same thing?
I got it.
Okay. How about you two?
We're sharing.
Okay, you're sharing. Okay, so the e-text, you have to print a copy and you need to buy the book. Either e-text or the hard copy. Okay. Alright. So I'm going to read this question. It's question 1 on page 74. Okay, I want you to do it on your notebook, okay? With increased access to wireless technology and lighter weight, the demand for tablet computer has increased substantially. That's the first sentence. With increased access to wireless technology and lighter weight, the demand for tablet computer has increased substantially. The first sentence. The second sentence. Tablets have also become easier and cheaper to produce as new technology has come online. That's the second sentence. Let me repeat the second sentence. Tablets have also become easier and cheaper to produce as new technology has come online. Okay, that's the second part. All right. The third sentence is this: despite the shift demand, prices have fallen. Despite the shift of demand, prices have fallen. So in this question, they ask you to use the demand and supply curve to describe the situation here. You have 3 sentences there, and each sentence delivers information. Okay, so go ahead, start working on this. Do you guys want me to repeat the?
Yes, please.
Okay. With increased access to wireless technology and lighter weight, the demand for tablet computers has increased substantially. How do you use the graph to describe what's happening here? First sentence. The demand curve is going to shift to the right. So originally, this is your demand 1, supply 1, okay? Now the demand is going to shift this way, right? You guys with me? Okay, second sentence. The tablets have also become easier and cheaper to produce as new technology has come online. How do we use graph to describe the second sentence?
Sounds like the supply curve goes to
Supply curve goes to right. Great. Supply shifts up to right. So supply curve is going to shift this way. I'm not going to draw it right now, but you don't shift this. Do you agree with that? Demand is going to shift to the right. Supply is also going to shift to the right, right? But there is a third sentence. Despite the shift in demand, the price has fallen. What's the price they're talking about here?
The actual tablet.
Yeah, it's the price of tablet. But in the graph, what's the price they're talking about here?
It's a specific point
Which one?
where it meets the new equilibrium.
The new equilibrium price is decreased compared to the original equilibrium price, right? Okay. This is our original equilibrium price. Now I'm going to draw it. I want you to tell me whether I'm drawing it right or not. And I'm going to ask you whether it's right or not. I shift this S to S2 here. Tell me whether I'm drawing it right or not. Based on this graph, what happened to the equilibrium price? Increases. So it's not right. How should I fix it?
the demand.
Anybody know how to fix it? Shift it more, right? Now the price has fallen, right? Okay. Why do I use this example? Well, this example tells you something very important. If you know the demand has increases, supply has increases, as described in the situation, can you determine the change of the equilibrium price without additional information? If I just tell you the demand has increased, shift to the right. Supply has increased, shift to the right. Without additional information, can you say what happened to the equilibrium price? Just now I showed that. It could be low or could be high, right? So when demand goes up, supply goes up, this one equilibrium price can go both ways. Right? So it's indeterminate. You cannot determine this equilibrium, just change out equilibrium price without additional information. Make sense? How about this? Can we say something determinate about equilibrium quantity? The original equilibrium quantity is right here. This is the new one. Can we say something determinate about the equilibrium quantity? What do you think?
Since it goes to the right,
The quantity will for sure increase. We can say that for sure. So that can be determined for sure. But equilibrium price can't. Okay? Does everyone follow me on that? I'm not trying to pick on you. Okay, if you do, I will ask you another question, kind of linked to connect to this. Now, the situation is exactly opposite. Demand goes down, supply goes down. Can we say something about this? Can we say something about this? This will be the multiple choice question I may give to you. Demand goes down. Supply also goes down. Both shift to the right. Can we say something for sure about the equilibrium price? Can we say something for sure about the equilibrium price? Not the equilibrium price, but the quantity. What's going to happen to the equilibrium quantity? It's going to go lower, right? Okay. So in this situation, again, this goes up, this will go down, and this one is still you cannot determine. So how do you solve this kind of question? You have to draw the graph, and when you draw the graph, several graphs, you will see, oh, you see the pattern. Okay, let's stop here because we have somebody had to catch another class. So, and we finished all the concepts in this chapter. So I'm going to sign the homework of chapter 3, and it's going to be due Thursday next week.